Yo, this is not an organized technique guide or tutorial. I will not be explaining anything useful to anyone. This is a conversation between me and myself about the M8, what it does, what it doesn't do, and why you may or may not want to actually use it. A lot of people who have found their way to this channel are M8 diehards, but most of the people who are already here have no idea what the hell this thing is and seem to think that it's magic. In the realm of hardware, this is a pretty powerful device. This is an 8-channel tracker sequencer synth box thing. If you've never used a tracker, that means the notes go from top to bottom instead of left to right. And it has a structure that I kind of like. So if you look at the bottom right, that's the menu map. If I hold shift and move to the menu map, I'm basically zooming in further and further into my song. So all the way at the left, we have the song screen, where you get to hear all 8 channels playing at once. You can solo or mute them as you like. Taking one step right on the menu map, we step into a chain, and a chain is a collection of phrases, all referred to by their number. So you can see that I use phrase 61 twice in this chain because I want to repeat this little motif. One more step right, and we step into phrase 61, and you can see the note data here. Every phrase is up to 16 notes with their associated volumes, instruments, and any applicable effects. Stuff like vibrato, kills, bends, that kind of stuff. One more step in, and we're on the instrument screen. This has a bunch of parameters on it. Some of them are specific to the type of instrument that's being used, and there are a couple different types, but some of them are common parameters, like the filter mode, the amplifier, panning, and chorus, delay, and reverb. One more time to the right, and we step into the instruments table. This is a set of commands that are run specifically when this instrument is triggered. That bass instrument doesn't have a table, so I'll take a look at another instrument here, where I use the table to get a vibrato delay, where every time the instrument is triggered, it scrolls down this table, and when it hits this PVB line, it starts the vibrato. And I can crank up the vibrato parameters to make it more obvious. So returning to our bass, going up from the instrument screen gets us the instrument mods screen. Every instrument has up to 4 mods, which can be like envelopes, LFOs, sidechain triggers, stuff like that, that give you a way of evolving the sound without writing commands directly. I'll switch to a totally different song to demonstrate some of what those can do. Basically, any parameter you see anywhere in the UI can be controlled either by an instrument mod or by a command, whether it's in the phrase or an instrument table. There are so many effects. Literally anything you see anywhere on this device that you can change manually, you can change through an effect command. Stepping down anywhere in the menu map gets you to the mixer. You can adjust individual track volume, as well as the volume of chorus, delay, and reverb. You can change the volume of the 2 audio inputs, one TRS and one over USB. The M8 has a limiter, which you can tune here. And you can actually step into this to see some more precise stuff. It has a master filter called the DJ filter. Stepping down further from there is the effect settings, where you can tune the parameters of chorus, delay, and reverb. Stepping up on the phrase screen gives you the groove screen, which you can use to set up things like swing timing or strange time signatures. And stepping up on the song or chain screen will bring you to the project screen, where you can change things like global transpose, global scale, and do like renders. Now, some of the limitations of this system should be obvious to you right away. In particular, there is no way to have more than 8 notes playing at the same time unless you use an external MIDI device and send commands to that. In practice, there are tons of instrument-specific ways to get around that. For instance, here are some 4-note chords on a single channel. But it is a restriction, and it's one that will affect the way that you write things. You're probably not going to want to use this for Jacob Collier 1000-track sessions. You're going to want to bring prepared samples, learn instrument-specific tricks for polyphony, or you're going to want to get comfortable with quick rendering, which is basically just taking the contents of a bunch of tracks and punching it down into a single sample that can live on a single track. You can get some very full-sounding arrangements with only a few minor tricks, but it is something you're going to constantly be aware of. However, a lot of things that look like they're going to be restrictions actually turn out not to be. For instance, even though every phrase is 16 lines long, you can still totally do oddball time signature stuff by manipulating the project's groove. So I guess I'll make a fresh project and talk about instruments for a bit. The M8 has a bunch of different instrument types, all with different capabilities. The most basic one is wavesynth, which is just... yeah, you have a parameter for the wave shape, including a bunch of wavetables, which you can seek through by using the scan parameter. This is obviously a really basic instrument type, but it still provides enough knobs that you can do something interesting with it using tables, instrument mods, and all that stuff. I'll bring this up now because I think it's a theme of the M8. You're going to get more out of it the more interested you are in twiddling the knobs and doing weird sound design. You have macrosynth, which is a bunch of oddball instruments based on a Eurorack module that each have 2 parameters. I will now showcase every macrosynth instrument as quickly as possible because I have no idea what to say about it. You have the sampler, which is basically exactly what it sounds. You load samples up on your SD card and it plays those samples. And in particular, it supports sample slicing, which can be nice for drum kits. You have a really powerful 4-op FM synthesizer, and remember that all of the parameters of these can be automated by commands or by instrument mods, so you can get some really complex sounds this way. Hypersynth does big, exciting stacked saw chords. The MIDI out instrument can be used to control external synths and other devices. And the external instrument does the same thing, but also takes the audio from that external device and pipes it back into the M8 for further processing. So hopefully I've painted a picture of a device that has a lot of power for a small form factor and a very simple set of tools, but one that is kind of DIY when it comes to your sound design. Like, obviously you can download instrument presets and stuff, but you're not going to work with the M8 for very long without feeling a compulsion to spin all the dials and see what you can create out of it. I don't mean to scare anybody off by this comparison, but a lot of the time it does feel like code golf, seeing how you can fit cool sound design into a small space. Like for a specific line in car, there are 2 channels carrying the main lead here. Both of them are using a similar FM instrument. So the way I'm getting two notes to sound in a single channel at once here is by having two of the four FM operators play at the original pitch, and the other two playing at a modified pitch that is hooked up to a instrument parameter, and then I control that instrument parameter with FX commands next to the note data. If I delete all this, and that's kind of a weird thing to wrap your head around, that this sequence of numbers, this sequence of relative pitches, is note data, because it's been hooked up that way. Now, I don't think you have to build music this way, and for a lot of genres, you're obviously not going to. Like, if you're doing, like, jungle, D&B, breakcore, stuff where sample manipulation and evolving sounds are a big focus, then I think it's very easy to do those things on this device without a lot of expertise. However, for some other stuff, you might feel like you're fighting the device at first until you get used to the way that it wants you to think about your sounds. On the one hand, I think that's really fun. I think sound design on the M8 is deceptively powerful, very easy to immerse yourself into, and just a lot of fun in general. But if you're already comfortable with production software, this does less than your software, almost guaranteed. In the realm of hardware, the handheld M8 is one of the best deals that exists, but when you compare it to software, you are shelling out for a device with some major limitations. Now, most of those limitations are for the sake of the form factor, and in fact, some of you might be raising your eyebrows by now, wondering why I haven't talked about the interface of this at all, because obviously, like, you control it with 8 buttons instead of a mouse and keyboard, and that's kind of a big difference, right? But it's honestly kind of overblown. I think when picking up this device, you should expect the first day to be painful and the first week to be slow, but there's really not that many concepts to pick up. If you are comfortable with keyboard and mouse-driven software, the M8 will never be that fast. But if you're not, there's a good chance you will get faster with this device than with traditional production software. And the reason for that is because in traditional production software, all of the tools that experienced producers use are sometimes under undiscoverable keyboard shortcuts or 17 nested menus out of something you didn't even know was clickable. But all of the M8's interface is very bare to you. It is very obvious about what you can and cannot do and where you can find it. That, plus the fact that you can do all of your production from the comfort of your bed wrapped up in blankets. I don't know, dude. I think there's something here. And I think your willingness to sit down and learn this weird little thing is going to come down to whether you appreciate that capability. Whether you're willing to accept a well-integrated set of powerful but weird tools over the boundless possibilities but boundless frustration of working with production software. I think the people who like the M8 love it, and the people who don't like it find it completely fucking unusable. If you want to try it out but don't want to drop the cash or wait for a pre-order, the keyword to search is M8 Headless. It's a setup that plugs into your PC and will allow you to get started for around $30. If you're looking for workflows that have a lot of these advantages but want to stay within the realm of software, you might want to try the free trial of Renoise. If you find tracker interfaces unfriendly, this will not be the device to change your mind, and I advise you to turn around, honestly. Do not let me downplay the limitations. It is still running off of an off-the-shelf microcontroller with 1 megabyte of RAM. If you are technically skilled in the software of your choice, this might frustrate you, and if you're completely unskilled, this is gonna be a weird place to learn, though not an impossible one. I did start my learning on LSDJ after all. But for me, the M8 is the most fun I've ever had making music, and if you have the same kinds of brainworms that I do, I have a suspicion that you're the same way. I hope that video was useful to anyone.
We smoking that IBM quantum computer.